The stars were silent. Across the galaxy, ancient satellites blinked out one by one. Space stations went dark. Signals stopped. Entire worlds seemed to vanish overnight. No one sent warnings. No one called for help. Only one signal kept repeating, echoing from a small blue planet. We are not running. For a long time, humanity had been ignored by the greater galaxy. Earth was far, poor in resources, and seen as primitive. The advanced species like the Tharn, Valari, and Korotan thought humans were just loud, violent, and short-lived. But now, those powerful races were fleeing like scared animals. Something terrible was coming. Something even they could not fight. The name was spoken only in whispers. Varnock. No one had seen the Varnock and lived to describe them clearly. They moved like a wave, destroying everything in their path: cities, ships, whole civilizations. The few survivors said they didn't talk, didn't stop, didn't negotiate. They consumed, they burned, they ended. Galactic leaders sent warnings to every species. Run, hide, surrender if you want to live. The Varnock cannot be stopped. One by one, planets went quiet. Ships left their homes behind. Entire species erased their records and left no trace, hoping to be forgotten. But Earth stayed. On the third planet from a dying sun, the leaders gathered in an underground base, hidden beneath the cold mountains of Alaska. Wind howled outside. Inside, General Raina Cole stood in front of a screen showing dozens of red blips, each one a fleeing world. "We're the last ones left," she said. Dr. Malik Chen, a scientist with silver hair and deep eyes, stared at the data. "All gone. All of them." "Then it's just us now," Raina said. "We hold the line. Some wanted to run. Some said it was suicide. But the message from Earth never changed. We fight." In orbit, Earth's defense grid powered up. Satellites armed with railguns and laser nets began rotating. Underground, secret weapons were activated, devices still in testing based on strange alien tech found on a forgotten moon. Most humans didn't even know what was coming. News was limited. But rumors spread fast. Monsters from beyond the stars. Entire cities eaten alive and space turning to fire. And still Earth stayed. Then, it came. A single ship entered the edge of the solar system. Small, sleek, and black as shadow. No radio signal, no ID, just silence. It drifted toward Mars first. The old mining colony picked it up, sent a probe. The probe vanished. Within minutes, Mars Base Alpha went offline. No explosions, no escape pods. Just quiet. Earth's warning system flared red. The ship was coming fast. In Alaska, alarms rang. General Raina stared at the screen. "That's not a scout ship," she said. "That's a message." Dr. Chen nodded. "They're watching what we do." Aboard the International Defense Station, orbiting Earth, Commander Elias North sat at the command seat, eyes locked on the screen. "Orders, General?" he asked through the comm. "Do not fire first," Raina replied. "Let them show who they are." The Varnock scout entered Earth's orbit. Smooth, cold, silent. It circled the planet once, twice. Then it began to descend. Jets fired. Small metal. Wings unfolded. The ship pierced Earth's atmosphere like a knife through water. Target, a small city in Brazil. Population, 240,000. In under 4 minutes, power failed across the entire city. Lights went out. Phones died. Vehicles stopped. Then came the sound, like metal screaming underwater. The ship hovered above the tallest tower. Something dropped. It was not a bomb, not a beam. It was a shape. Tall, pale, insect-like, moving in impossible ways. It landed without sound, and it began. People ran, screamed, fell. Cameras caught only flashes, blurs of claws and shadow. A gas spread through the air, thick, black and cold. By the time soldiers arrived, the city was half dead. But humans didn't flee. They fought. A team of special forces landed near the tower, guns blazing. Drones flew overhead, firing missiles. Tanks rolled in. The creature turned to face them. It smiled, and then it burned. From the clouds above, Earth's satellite defense fired its first shot. A single railgun slug hit the tower, shattering glass, fire roaring. The creature screamed, not in pain but in surprise. For the first time, the Varnock were hurt. They left no survivors before. No resistance. But now, Earth had hit back. In space, the black ship began to rise, but not fast enough. 3 fighters locked on. Missiles launched. The Varnock ship exploded in low orbit, raining metal into the sea. Cheers rose across Earth. For one night hope lived, but Reyna knew this was only the beginning. "They'll come now," she whispered. That was a scout. The real force is still out there. Dr. Chen studied the debris. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Reyna nodded, following him into a sealed room. On the screen before them was an ancient signal. It had been buried deep in the asteroid belt, found by accident during a mining run. Strange symbols, not human, not alien. Older Dr. Chen had been decoding it for years. Now the message was clear. The ones who consume are returning. Only fire and memory can stop them. The key is in your blood. Reyna stared. "Our blood?" Chen nodded. "I think humanity wasn't just overlooked by the galaxy. I think we were left behind, on purpose." Before she could respond, another alert came through. Space trembled. More Varnock ships. Bigger this time. Dozens of them. Entering the edge of the solar system. And they weren't alone. Earth's old satellites picked up something impossible. Distress signals from deep space from other species. The ones who ran. They were being hunted. Humanity had made a choice. Now, the galaxy watched what they would do next. But Earth didn't look up in fear. They loaded their guns, sharpened their blades, and waited. Because while aliens ran in fear, humanity stood alone and fought back. The world was still recovering from the first encounter. News spread like wildfire, not just across Earth, but through the hidden communication networks still listening from deep space. A single alien ship had arrived, tested humanity, and left behind silence and destruction. But something was different this time. Humanity had survived. In every corner of the planet, people had seen the flashes in the sky. Some thought it was another natural disaster. Some believed it was the beginning of something much worse. But those who knew the truth, governments, scientists, and secret agencies, understood one thing. This was only the beginning. Inside the command base beneath the Alaskan ice, General Reyna watched footage from the city. Shadows moved unnaturally across the broken buildings. Strange patterns left on the ground. The creature they had faced was not just a machine, and not fully alive either. It was something in between. Dr. Chen walked beside her, holding a tablet full of decoded data. That thing we fought wasn't their strongest. It was just watching, testing. Reyna didn't blink. "And we passed the test." "No," Chen said. "We surprised them. And now they're curious." Far above Earth, satellites were reorienting. Scanners focusing beyond the solar system. Signals were detected. Multiple ships entering through the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Larger than the first. Slower. Waiting. Not approaching Earth directly. Not yet. Commander Elias on the orbital station stared at the readings. "They're not rushing us," he said over the comm. "They're watching." Reyna nodded. "They want to see what we'll do." But Earth wasn't going to wait. Around the world, preparations began. Not just military actions, but something deeper. Scientists unlocked research files kept secret for decades. Experiments once considered too strange, too unpredictable. Engineers reactivated abandoned spacecraft hidden under deserts and oceans. Old technology combined with new knowledge. Things began to change fast. In a hidden facility below the Swiss Alps, a discovery was being studied. A small artifact, smooth and warm, to the touch that had been found in orbit years ago. Until now, no one had made it react, but since the Varnock arrived, the object began to glow faintly. Dr. Chen believed it wasn't just reacting to the enemy, but to humanity itself. "It's like it remembers us," he said, voice low. Elsewhere, something even more unusual was happening. People began to report dreams, strange images, symbols, stars, voices they couldn't understand, all coming to people who had never met each other. Some were soldiers, some were children, all of them human. The pattern was undeniable, and then it happened. One of the distant alien ships moved, not toward Earth, but toward Neptune's orbit. A probe was sent to monitor it. It returned shattered. But just before contact was lost, it recorded one image. The ship didn't fire a weapon. It released something. Something small. Something alive. General Reyna gathered her team. "This is not a war of technology," she said. "This is something else," Dr. Chen agreed. "I think we're not fighting to win. We're fighting to prove something." "What?" "That we're worth saving." More ships began to appear, on deep-range scans, not just Varnock. Other species, those who had once fled. Their signals were faint, scared. But now, they were watching. Because Earth had not been destroyed, Earth had not surrendered. A message was sent, through the old relay, station still floating near Jupiter. "We will not run. We will not vanish. This is our home. We stand." Hours later, another signal came through. Not human, not Varnock. Old, broken, but readable. It simply said, "We are listening." In the deep cold of space, under strange skies, humanity's story was just beginning, and the galaxy was beginning to remember them. The sky above Earth remained quiet, but in the black space beyond Neptune, things had changed. Sensors buried in ice in orbit had started reporting unusual readings, movement too smooth, too organized, not the work of nature. The Varnock ships were no longer just watching, they were adjusting, aligning, preparing. In Earth's command base, General Reyna stood in front of the main screen. Her team had gathered, scientists, analysts, and officers. The images were faint but clear. There were now 12 Varnock vessels spread across the outer edge of the solar system. They were not approaching, but neither were they leaving. Dr. Chen was the first to speak. This is not an attack formation, it's something else." He pointed to the data stream, highlighting symbols forming across their scans, patterns appearing in the space between the Varnock ships. "It's like they're building a message," he said, "but not with words, with movement, with placement, like a language made of shadows." Reyna stared in silence. It didn't make sense, until the artifact, still stored in the secure vault beneath the base, began to react again. The strange object, smooth and silent for years, had once glowed faintly. Now it pulsed, matching the rhythm of the Varnock ships beyond Neptune. Elsewhere across Earth, people began to feel something unusual, not fear, but awareness. As if something far away had begun to reach through space and touch their thoughts. Some felt a pull toward the stars. Others had visions. Simple, silent flashes of unknown places, long halls of silver, clouds moving, backward through time, all of them, at the same moment. Something was trying to connect. Commander Elias, aboard the orbital station, picked up a new signal. It was not radio, not digital, but something older, something more primal. "It's like memory," he said, voice almost a whisper, "like remembering something you never knew." At the center of this growing mystery was Earth itself. The Varnock had the power to move faster than light, to erase cities, to silence worlds. But they hadn't used it. Not yet. Why? Reyna turned to Dr. Chen, eyes sharp. "They're not waiting for us to respond, they're waiting to see what we are." Chen nodded. "Maybe we're not what they expected." In the shadows of Antarctica, a hidden lab long forgotten was reactivated. Inside was another object, one recovered decades ago from a meteor that had never fully melted. Until now. As the Varnock moved, the ice around the object vanished. It rose on its own. It hummed. Back in the base, the artifact from orbit finally spoke, not with sound, but with light. It projected a vision into the room, a memory, not from humans, not from the Varnock, but from something older. A world of tall trees, skies filled with soft clouds, creatures made of light and air. Then came the dark, shapes that swallowed stars, the same pattern, the same silence, until one species stood still when all others had fled. It was not Earth, but it was familiar. And then the vision ended. Chen was breathless. "This isn't the first time," Reyna whispered. "It's a test. It's always been a test." The Varnock ships began to shift again. One of them moved closer, slowly entering the edge of Saturn's orbit. Its lights dimmed. A small pod was released, round, simple, and smooth. No threat, no weapons, just presence. Earth's Defense Council met again. Some wanted to respond with shields raised. Others said to wait. Reyna, after a long silence, gave the order. Let it land. The pod entered Earth's atmosphere within the hour. It was quiet, smooth, and left no mark. It touched down in a desert far from cities. Soldiers and scientists approached it with care. And then, something unexpected happened. The pod opened. Inside was not a message, not a machine, but something that looked human, or almost. It blinked once, then spoke in perfect English. "You stayed," it said. They didn't expect that. Before anyone could speak again, the sky above shimmered. Dozens of stars blinked in perfect rhythm. The real arrival had begun, and Earth had chosen to face it, not with fear, but with something the others had forgotten, the will to remain. The world watched in stillness. Cameras surrounded the desert where the strange pod had landed. News stations sent drones not too close, but just enough to catch a glimpse. The figure that had stepped out looked human but wasn't. Its features were soft, precise, almost like someone from a dream. Its skin shimmered faintly, as though made from moonlight. And its eyes held memories far older than any Earth language. It didn't resist when the science team approached. It spoke in calm, clear English, though no one had taught it. Its voice was quiet, but everyone who heard it remembered the words. "I came because your kind remained," it said. "You stood when the stars turned away. That has not happened in a long time." Inside Earth Central Command, General Reyna sat with the world's leaders. Every country had someone watching. Every major science lab was active. Every orbiting satellite had been adjusted. All were trying to understand the same thing. Who, what, was this visitor? It called itself Elon. It never gave a race name or a place of birth. Only one thing was made clear. I carry the first question. That question, however, was not spoken with words. It was shown. Elon lifted its hand and light flowed out. Not harsh, not bright, but gentle, like starlight remembered from a childhood sky. That light spread through the air and formed shapes, not pictures but feelings. Everyone nearby could feel them, even those watching from miles away. They felt warmth, curiosity, longing, and then they felt waiting. Dr. Chen, watching from behind, the security glass turned to his team. "It's not here to talk, it's here to listen," Reyna agreed. "It wants to know why we stayed." Elon confirmed it. Many others faced the same choice. Stay or vanish, they chose silence. You chose presence. Why? Reyna didn't have a single answer, none of them did. But when the question was sent out to Earth's people, the responses poured in. They came from cities and farms, from workers and poets, children and elders. The same ideas returned again and again, because this is our home, because running doesn't make us safe, because we want to be remembered. Elin listened. Every message was collected. It didn't judge, didn't interrupt. It simply stood and absorbed. And then it said something none of them expected. The Varnock do not know how to listen. That sentence echoed across the room like a quiet bell. They are not cruel, Elin explained, but they forgot who they were long ago. They were not always like this. There was a time they felt and dreamed and made promises, but they stopped listening, to others and to themselves. Now they only follow patterns. You changed the pattern. Back, in orbit, the 12 Varnock vessels continued to shift slowly, still silent, still distant, but clearly aware. Scans showed their energy patterns changing, not building weapons, not forming attacks, but something different. They were syncing with Earth. Dr. Chen reviewed the artifact again. Its glowing patterns now pulsed in time with Elin's presence. It was responding not to technology, but to understanding. Everything is connected, he said quietly. Not just minds. Memory, emotion, choice. They're trying to measure something deeper. Reyna understood. They're testing our soul. That same day, a second pod arrived, but this one did not land in silence. It hovered above the waters of the Pacific and sent out a wave, not of sound, but of sensation. Everyone within hundreds of miles suddenly saw the same image in their minds, a single tree growing on a broken world, a hand reaching toward it, and a choice, leave it behind or stay and care for it. Back at the desert site, Elin looked up at the sky and spoke once more. This is the second question. Will you care for what others abandoned? The world fell quiet again, and humanity, standing alone beneath unfamiliar stars, began to realize it wasn't being judged for strength or fear. It was being asked whether it could remember something older than power, whether it could belong in a galaxy that had forgotten how, and the answer, like the stars themselves, would unfold in time. The air across Earth seemed different now, not in temperature, but in weight, as if the sky itself had begun to watch, quietly, from above. The second pod, still floating over the Pacific, did not land. It stayed suspended just above the ocean's surface, unmoving, as if waiting for something to change, not in the world, but in the people who lived in it. Scientists studied it from ships and drones. It gave off no signal, no heat, no sound. But those nearby reported dreams, simple, slow dreams of places they'd never seen. A garden beneath two suns, a hallway made of light, an empty seat at a long table, waiting for someone. Back in the desert, Elin remained where it first stepped out. Not because it was being held, but because it chose to stay. It listened to every story Earth sent, every song, every whisper. It never looked tired, never blinked. But when asked why it was still here, it answered softly, "Because you haven't asked your question yet." General Reyna sat alone in the base's observation room when she heard that line repeated again and again in her mind. It was not a command, not even a request, just a mirror. What was Earth's question? Dr. Chen thought about it too. He read thousands of messages sent from people across the planet. Some asked for peace, others asked to be accepted, to be left, alone, to be taught, or even to be remembered. But none of these seemed like the question. Until one night, deep in the Swiss mountains, the original artifact reacted once more. This time, it didn't glow. It sang, not with music, but with memory. Everyone in the lab stood still as waves of thought moved through them. They didn't see war, they didn't see defeat. They saw a gathering. Figures from many stars, some tall, some small, none the same, but all with voices. Not shouting, not demanding, just sharing. It was a council, old as time, a moment of balance, and then it was gone. Dr. Chen turned to the screen. It's showing us the last time the galaxy was whole. Back in orbit, the Varnock ships made a shift, this time subtle but clear. One of them folded its shape into a new form. Its outline changed. Its outer layers began to mimic the soft curve of Earth's moon. It was not blending in, it was reflecting, mirroring. "I think they're learning from us," Elias said from the orbital station. "Not just watching, adjusting." Another day passed, then another. And then, without warning, something arrived that none had expected. A signal. Not from the Varnock, not from Island, but from somewhere further out. A quiet, fragile voice from the dark. "We are the ones who left. We wish to return." Reyna's breath caught. "They're coming back." Island stood, eyes closed, sensing something far away. "They feared the test. They chose silence. But your choice echoed further than, Earth was no longer alone in its standing. From deep space, one ship then another approached. Small, shaky. Ancient vessels, drifting but determined. They were not powerful. They were not fast. But they carried stories. Each of them brought one thing. Memory. These were the forgotten ones. Species that had disappeared from records believed to be extinct, but they had simply hidden, waiting for a sign that it was safe to care again. And Earth had given them that sign. On every continent, people looked up at the stars with new eyes, not just with fear, not with defense, but with the quiet courage of those who plant seeds in soil they may never see bloom. Because now the galaxy was listening. The Varnock vessels, once cold and silent, dimmed their lights. Not in warning, but in recognition. Something ancient had shifted. Not in machines, not in weapons, but in meaning. Elend turned to Reyna one final time. There will be a gathering. Not to decide what happens next, but to remember what once was. And for the first time in generations, Earth received an invitation, not to survive, but to belong. And that changed everything. The stars, once distant and cold, now shimmered with purpose. Earth had been silent for so long, hidden behind its blue skies and quiet oceans. But now it stood at the edge of something ancient, older than memory, older than fear. From every side of the galaxy, signals came. Not orders, not warnings. Invitations. They did not arrive in human languages, yet everyone understood. The Varnock were no longer watching from afar. Their ships had stopped moving, but they had not disappeared. They waited, calmly, patiently, not as judges but as witnesses, as if Earth's choice had unlocked something they themselves had forgotten. Elend stood atop the desert cliff, where clouds moved slow and soft above. The air was still, but charged, like a world waiting for its next breath. It turned its gaze to the sky, where new stars blinked into view, ships, small and old like whispers from the past. One by one they approached Earth's orbit, guided not by coordinates but by memory. Reyna stood by the large viewing screen in the command center, quiet. No alarms, no red lights, no threats. Just lights. And hope. "This is the gathering," Island said. "But it is not a meeting of leaders, it is a return of listeners." Dr. Chen, who had spent a lifetime studying signals from stars, felt something deeper now. They're not coming for power, they're coming to remember. Over the oceans, something new began to appear. Not ships, not weapons, but a structure. Transparent, hovering in the sky, like a city made of breath and light. It shimmered in the clouds, held not by metal but by agreement. It didn't seem to be built but remembered into being. Reyna asked, "What is that?" Island responded softly. "It's called the place between, a meeting ground used before time became history. It exists only when enough minds agree to meet. And for the first time in ages, enough do." It floated above the Earth's surface, visible only to those willing to believe in what could be rebuilt. From inside it, no walls, no weapons, just space. Space to listen, to speak, to understand. Representatives from distant species stepped forward. Some came in ships made of glass and sound. Others sent forms that looked like dust gathered into shape. One, from a planet with no sky, appeared as a song carried by the wind. None of them demanded. None of them warned. They only asked one question. How did you stay when we could not? Reyna didn't answer alone. People from around the world sent messages, recordings, dreams, old poems, songs of rivers, images of trees, laughter of children, stories of holding on, of walking through silence, of hoping even when hope felt invisible. These stories were shared in the place between, and the other species listened. Some cried, not with tears, but with light. Others changed shape, as if memory itself was rebuilding who they once were. Then came the final gift. Elian stepped into the center of the gathering. It no longer looked only human. Its form shifted gently, reflecting every race that had spoken, every story that had been shared. It placed its hand to the sky, and a ripple passed through space. Not loud, not bright, just real. The pattern has changed, Elin whispered, and with those words something beyond the stars stirred. A beacon that had long faded flickered once more. A network of ancient passageways, paths once used for travel, trade, learning, lit up like veins of light across the galaxy. Earth had become part of something lost, not because it conquered, not because it begged, but because it remained. And as the meeting in the place between continued, Earth was no longer just a blue dot in the dark. It was a reminder, a quiet voice in the vast sky saying, even when all others leave, someone must stay. And because humanity stayed, the stars found their voice again,